Greetings of peace, love, and enlightenment. This is Godis Nanu, a national spokesperson and founder for the Birth Guru organization. This video is being brought to you to really increase awareness about the infant and maternal mortality rates in the United States of America. And to bring to your awareness solutions that are being proposed by my organization, the Birth Guru organization. I want to start off with the scripture. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That's 2 Timothy 1:7. Now, the United States of America, while having the most advanced systems and technology, has the highest rates for infant and maternal mortality in the developed world. We have to ask ourselves why. It would seem African American families are driving these rates to be so high. And I say that not out of feelings and emotions, but if you go and look at the statistics and you take out black families and just look at white families, what we are calling white American families, European American families, you will see that the rate is no longer high. The rate is normal. So that tells us that it is a fact that African American families are driving these rates to be so high. Black women are dying 4 times the rate of white women for giving birth. Some states it's higher than that. And black families are grieving over the loss of their infants, their newborns, at twice the rate of white families. In some states it's higher than that. We must ask ourselves why such astronomical disparities exist. The usual risk factors, such as socioeconomic status, lack of prenatal care, and pre-existing medical issues, have shown to be irrelevant factors, according to recent studies. What does that mean? It means that black families are suffering simply due to the color of their skin. You have people such as like Cesarean Williams, who almost died in childbirth. So that tells you what? It tells you that it has nothing to do with anything other than the color of your skin. She was an African American Olympic tennis player. She wasn't in bad health. She wasn't poor. She didn't lack prenatal care or anything like that. She just happened to be black. Also, Judge Glenda Hatchett has been working tirelessly to raise awareness about preventable maternal deaths because her daughter-in-law was murdered in childbirth. Yes, I say murdered. They are murdering black mothers and black babies in the hospitals. Many are coming to the awareness that something must be done to remedy the spiritual and social ailment. Yes, it's a spiritual and social ailment that would cause such hatred for mothers and newborn babies. Now, our organization is doing our best to raise awareness. You can assist us by sharing this video. We're also providing solutions that will make a lasting impact. One of the solutions that we propose, some of the things that we are doing, you can see on our website, thebirthguru.org. Some of the things that we're doing, we're going out to our communities and spreading awareness with our awareness packets, which is the information that I'm presenting to you now and will present in this video. And since we have COVID-19 going on, I would appreciate that you would help us to reach the community, the black community, by sharing this video with everyone that you know. Also, what we are doing, we are hosting breast friend socials, which we can't do right now, but that's something else that we're doing to assist with this as well. We have community meet and greets that we've hosted. Our goal is to host these meet and greets once a month in every target city to bring mamas and doulas and other birth advocates and just caring persons in general, male and female, together to create a support system for each other and our families. One of the other things that we are proposing is a panel discussion. We want to hold quarterly meetings and yearly panel discussions so that we can answer questions and speak about solutions that are going to matter. What our organization wants to do is to establish ecologically self-sustaining community centers in each state, especially those states which are predominantly black. Each center will include 2 to 5 acres of quality land on which we will have our self-sustaining community center. When I say self-sustaining, ecologically self-sustaining, I mean that it will have solar panels. It will have a well system, a system that grows food. There will be a food or herb garden on the property, a prayer garden as well, and also 3 to 7 single shelters for birthing and private supplication. All of these things will be self-sustaining. That means there's a system in place so that the waste will be used to fertilize the soil that feeds the garden. Solar panels will be used, those kind of things. There will be no need for bills and things like that, so that we'll be able to assist the community without needing reoccurring funding. And that is our goal, so that mothers will have a place to go to. Mothers who can't birth at home will have a place to go to, so they don't feel obligated to go to a hospital if they don't have a doctor or midwife that they feel safe with. Now, our organization is openly accepting new members. We do highly we highly want to push those who are black doctors, who are black midwives, those who call themselves doulas, to join our organization, this spiritual movement, to combat this hatred against mothers and babies, newborn babies, to join us in membership and to assist us in supporting one another. We're also accepting donations, volunteers, because it will require resources to counteract this hatred that's killing our mothers and babies. And we're also accepting sponsors to help us toward our mission. And you can find more information about all of those things, how to become a member, how to donate, volunteer, or become a sponsor on our website. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that in this video, because this video is to inform the masses about this illness that is happening now in our communities, that hatred that is causing those to abuse their power and ability to murder our black mothers and black babies when they're most vulnerable. And right now with COVID, you can't even have birth support, so our mothers and children are even more vulnerable. There's articles coming out about mothers finding out that when they thought their children had died, they've been sold and adopted. And we have to be careful and be mindful of our history in this nation, so that we don't repeat our history in any shape, form, or fashion. God has given us common sense, and we need to use it to help one another and help ourselves. All right. So you can find out more information about the building, that we're planning to build and all of that on our website, or you can contact us directly as well. All right, and that's thebirthguru.org. Now, we also advocate free birth. What is free birth? Free birth, also known as unassisted childbirth. Excuse me. Come here, Mama. All right. Look. This is one of my children that I free birthed. I free birthed 3 babies. I've had 3 free births at outside of the hospital. And free birth, also known as unassisted childbirth, refers to the process of intentionally giving birth without the assistance of a medical birth attendant. It is by definition a planned process and is thus distinct from unassisted birth due to reasons of emergency, lack of access to a skilled birth attendant, or other medical attendant. It is also different from home birth, although most UCs do happen within the home. Free birth does happen in the home, but you can free birth anywhere. Because the most important factor in a free birth is the mother's sense of safety and comfort. Okay? Now, free birth is see birth as a natural and normal function of the female body rather than a medical emergency. We also have evidence that in... You coming to sit by me, Mama? Because you're interrupting. I'm trying to speak and you're making noise. You gonna sit right here by Mama? Okay, come on. Okay, come on and sit down, please. Alright, now free birth is see birth as a natural and normal function of the female body rather than a medical emergency. We also have evidence that in a normal birth, medical interventions do more harm than good. Now, this is a known fact. In any mammal, this is the case, that the mother's sense of safety and comfort is the most important thing. Any farmer knows this and can verify this for any mammal that exists. Any zookeeper can tell you that it's very important for the mother to feel safe and for the mother to be comfortable, and that's the most important factor. The more you leave the female alone, the easier it is for her to birth. Now, free birthers are not medical professionals and do not purport to be so. We do not encourage women with high-risk pregnancies to choose this birth option, nor do we demonize the medical industrial complex to the extent of encouraging mothers to take matters into their own hands when there's an actual matter of medical emergency. Now, while some who free birth may actually be medical professionals, some medical professionals do free birth at home. But you don't have to be a medical professional to free birth. But if you are high risk, we do encourage you to find a black doctor or a black midwife, so that you're not putting yourself in any danger. But those who can free birth should free birth. You should birth your own baby. You know, no one needs instruction on how to get pregnant. You know, you don't go to the doctor and ask them to get pregnant and ask them to be there while you get pregnant unless you're having difficulty. Same thing about birth. You shouldn't go to the hospital unless you're having difficulties with your pregnancy in some form or fashion. There's no need for that. All right. Now, I would like to address some myths about birth, and then I would like to also address interventions that everyone should know. So, let's discuss some myths that we have about birth. And also, if you are interested in free birth, you can go to the website and it will connect you to our free birth community that we created on Facebook. You can connect with our community there. It is a black free birthing community. And that way you can learn more if you're interested in doing that. All right, it is a private group. And that group actually helped me to to complete these documents. I'm going over now the myths about birth. One myth is that birth is a medical emergency that must take place in a hospital setting. That is not true. Birth is as natural and normal as using the bathroom and can take place anywhere. Okay? Another myth about birth is that birth is extremely difficult and painful. That is a lie. Birth does not have to be difficult, and it does not have to be painful. Believe it or not, anxiety and fear scientifically is what causes pain in childbirth 9 times out of 10. It is your anxiety and your fear as it relates to birth that causes your muscles to have difficulty contracting. The more relaxed you are, the easier your birth is, the less painful it is. And birth can be easy and painless. Some women report to have orgasms while giving birth. Now, I'm an anxious person, so I cannot say, that I've experienced that. I did experience pain. Of course, my easiest birth was with my daughter, and of course, I had the lesson. She was the one I had the least anxiety with as well. And I can say for a fact, based on experience, that whenever I was more anxious about the birth, it was more painful. All right. Now, another myth about birth is you must give birth before your doctor assigned due dates. Now, doctors assign due dates based on your last menstrual rather than ovulation, so they can be at least 2 weeks off, and it's not an exact date. A normal pregnancy can last 42 weeks. Okay? 42 weeks. Another myth is if your baby is breech at 37 weeks, you must have a C-section. That is a lie. Breech babies are a variation of normal. They can be birthed vaginally in most cases, long as you don't have any other presiding issues. A breech baby may very well rotate into the ideal birthing position at any time during your first stage of labor. Doesn't have to be sometime before you're even in labor. It doesn't even make sense because the baby can turn as soon as you're in labor. When your body's ready, your baby will turn. And even if the baby doesn't turn, you can still birth that baby vaginally. That's a variation of normal. It's very common. And your doctor or your midwife should be trained to assist you in birthing that baby vaginally. And they should know what to do if labor begins to slow down or become risky for the baby. It's not a risk just because the baby's breech. That's not a risk. Now, it can become risky, and your midwife or doctor should know the difference. And if they don't, you need a new midwife and a new doctor. All right? I think that was important to go over those myths so you all can be aware. Now, let's go over some birth-related hospital interventions that you should know before going into the hospital if you must go because you're high risk or what have you, or you're just afraid and you're just incompetent or ignorant and you only feel safe at a hospital. What's important is that you feel safe. So don't let me be the judge or anybody be the judge of you. What's important is that you feel safe and you feel secure, because that's what's going to ensure you have the best birth overall. Do I think it's safe for a black woman to go to the hospital? Oh no. Definitely not. Too many of us are dying there. Too many of our babies are dying there. You shouldn't feel safe. But hey, some people, something's not clicking there and that's where you feel safe, please by all means go. Or if you're high risk, please by all means go. Especially if you have a black doctor or a black midwife. All praise is due to Allah. Good for you. Okay, so here's some birth-related hospital interventions to know. Bed rest. Yes, this is an intervention. It's also called the recumbent position or back lying. Now, this can result in poor quality contractions, um, slow dilation and effacement, prolonged labor, and failure to descend. It also increases the rate of instrumental births and episiotomies, increases pain, and increases cesarean surgeries. Valid reasons for backlying could be fetal monitoring, if they have to monitor your baby because you're high risk, is something going on, something's not right, you're having some kind of complication, and of course you have to lie down on your back to be able to monitor the fetus. If you're given an epidural for pain relief, then you're going to have the baby monitored. You're going to have to lay on your back. So the best thing to do is to avoid the epidural and avoid lying on your back, because it's going to cause complications unless you absolutely, something's going on and you have to lie on your back to monitor the baby. All right. If confined to a bed, you can always choose to lie on your side instead of your back. All right. Another intervention is the continuous fetal monitoring. This is elastic belts that hold two flat devices called sensors on your belly. One sensor records the baby's heart rate. The other shows how long your contractions last. You have to stay close to monitor next to your bed. All right. Associated within an increase in pain medication use, cesarean sections, and instrumental vaginal birth. Okay. This is associated with this. So that means studies have shown a correlation between the fetal monitoring and the increased need for more pain medication, with increase in cesarean sections and instrumental vaginal births. So this is a red flag that you may end up having a cesarean, or you may having an instrumental vaginal birth, or you're probably going to be in more pain if you do this. Now, valid reasons for fetal monitoring include a high-risk pregnancy or birth. If you're high risk, you're having some kind of complication, of course you want to monitor the baby. Again, remember, you can lie on your side instead of having to lie on your back. And you can request intermittent monitoring instead if you're having a healthy pregnancy, labor, and are not on an epidural. Okay? So you can request intermittent instead of continuous. All right, induction of labor. This is our next intervention that we're going to discuss. This is an obstetric procedure in which labor is initiated artificially by means of membrane stripping, cervix ripening agents, amniotomy, which is draining of amniotic fluids, or administration of opioids, pretty much. Let's just say opioids. All right. Now, this decreases fetal outcomes and doubles the chance of a cesarean if you're induced. Okay? This is a scientific fact. This is statistical data. You can look it up. Now, valid reasons for induction include pre-existing health conditions that require a controlled birth environment for greatest probability of survival for mother and child. Now, if there's not a health condition that absolutely is a threat to your survival, there's no reason to induce. Bogus reasons for inductions are used all the time, like you're overdue. That's bogus, okay? If your baby's healthy and you're healthy, there's no reason to induce, okay? And like I said before, normal range of pregnancy, normal pregnancies can go up to 42 weeks, okay? Now, the size of the fetus, that's a bogus reason. There's no way to tell with the technology they have now the size of the fetus. So many times women say, well, they said my baby was this, but my baby came out like this. There's no way for them to know with the ultrasound the size of your fetus, okay? And you can look that up. As scientifically proven, it's not accurate, okay? And also convenience. That's a horrible reason to induce because of the risks of induction. Convenience to you or convenience to the doctor is not a good reason. It's not a real reason to induce. Of course, if you want to, nobody can stop you, but you need to know that you're risking what it is that you're risking. Most likely, if you're induced, you're going to have a cesarean, okay? Because you can't just, it's not likely you're going to be able to just force your body to do what you want the body to do, okay? When it's not ready. Now, when commenting on inducing labor without medical necessity, ACNM President Dr. Holly Powell Kennedy, a professor of midwifery at the Yale University School of Nursing, says that the problem is the baby's readiness for being born. She uses the analogy of berry picking. Anyone who has picked berries, they know that a berry that is ripe falls into your hand. One that is not quite ready leaves parts on your hands, and one that is not ready at all is green. Like a berry, a woman's uterus, and specifically her cervix, ripen as she gets ready to open or dilate. Okay? So I want you to think about that, what's happening as you're taking that baby out or forcing that baby out before the baby's ready. Think about the baby as a berry. If the berry's ripe, then okay, induction may not be that harmful. But if the baby's not ripe, you're going to have problems. All right? Now, the best thing to use is the Bishop's score as far as knowing whether or not you're ready for induction. That's hard for me to just explain without showing you the chart for the Bishop score. That is something I provide. If you want a copy of this awareness packet with this information so that you can share it in your community, please let me know. I would appreciate all persons to do that. If you can print it out and share it with your neighbors at your community center, post it up or what have you, please feel free. As long as you don't take anything out of it or put anything in it. All right? Now, but you can Google the Bishop score. You can Google that information and find out what that is to know whether or not you're ripe. Okay? That's for any induction, even a home induction. You want to make sure that your body's ready. All right? All right, so I'm going to skip some induction procedures because I just went over induction, and you know that all of those are harmful in some kind of way. In my awareness packet, I do go over each one and the risks of each one separately. We're going to skip that. All right. Pitocin especially. It's a synthetic oxytocin, which is a hormone that signals your uterus to begin contracting. Now, you can request nipple stimulation to promote contractions instead of Pitocin or any other type of induction. You can do that. There's natural ways to induce. If your body's actually ready to go into labor, there's natural things you can do to hurry your body along. Now let's talk about epidurals. Yes, that is an intervention. That's a local anesthetic. Okay. That goes directly into your spinal cord. Now, it may cause your blood pressure to suddenly drop. If there's a sudden drop in blood pressure, you may need to be treated with IV fluids, medications, and oxygen. You may experience a severe headache caused by leakage of spinal fluid. You will need to alternate sides while lying in bed and have continuous monitoring for changes in fetal heart rate. There's a reason for this because it's not necessarily the best thing to do to take an epidural. It's not necessarily safe. You also might experience the following side effects: shivering, a ringing of the ears, backache, soreness where the needle is inserted, nausea, or difficulty urinating. You might find that your epidural makes pushing more difficult, and additional medications or interventions may be needed, such as Pitocin, forceps, or Cesarean. It may cause permanent nerve damage, may result in the area where the catheter was inserted. Water births can be as effective as narcotics in reducing pain. So if you want to if you're worried about pain, have a water birth. Go to a hospital that has a birth pool if you have to be at a hospital if you're high risk. You can also try counter pressure, acupressure, or ice or heat during labor to help with pain management. All right. Now let's talk about a C-section. Now this is surgery. This is major surgery that's associated with risk of post-operative adhesions, surgical injuries, incisional hernias, which may require surgical correction, infections. Mothers experience an increased incidence of postnatal depression and can experience significant psychological trauma and ongoing birth-related post-traumatic stress disorder after obstetric intervention during the birthing process. Other risks include severe blood loss, which may require blood transfusion, postnatal puncture, spinal headaches. Women who had cesarean sections are more likely to have problems with later pregnancies. The maternal mortality rate for a cesarean section is higher than with a vaginal birth. A baby delivered by cesarean could be delivered too early and have low birth weight, is more likely to have breathing and respiratory problems, and is 50% more likely to have a lower APGAR score than those born vaginally. And the baby may be nicked or cut during the incision as well. So you're really running some risk there with a cesarean, especially if you really don't need it. Some valid reasons for cesarean include severe preeclampsia, severe diabetes, active genital herpes, fetal distress, cord prolapse, uterine rupture, severe placental abruption, complete or partial placenta previa, or if you're having multiples of 3 or more. Those could be some valid reasons there. And keep in mind that some of these things I'm saying severe because preeclampsia or diabetes, those things can be monitored and they can be managed if they're not severe. So if something can be monitored or be managed, that's not a valid reason for cesarean. The cesarean rate in the United States is near 30% for low-risk women. That means women who don't need a cesarean at all are getting cesarean section, 30% of them. All right? In contrast, the C-section rate for women under midwifery care is about 5%. So in the hospitals, 30% of women are getting cesarean sections that don't need it. C-section rate for women under midwifery care is only 5% total. Those women are most likely high risk or, something going on. 5% seems like a reasonable amount compared to 30, right? Now, the World Health Organization recommends a cesarean section rate of approximately 10 to 15% as being optimal for outcomes for mothers and babies. So that means the United States is way above that. Why? Probably because they're rushing black women to get cesarean sections. Another way to kill us, basically. Let's be real. Let's be honest with ourselves. There's no need to sugarcoat it. All right? If you or baby are not in a health-threatening situation, you can try laboring longer to see if baby makes progress. Try changing positions, walking, and squatting. Remember that active labor, particularly for a first-time mom, doesn't begin until about 6 centimeters. That means that any progress before them is not expected to be remotely fast or linear. Be sure to also do your optimal exercises during your pregnancy to get baby in the best position for birth. If you're not relaxed, your birth is going to take longer. And a longer birth does not necessarily mean an emergency. My last child took me, I think I had like a 48-hour plus labor to birth him. And that's because he came like face presenting and with a hand. So yeah, I struggled a little bit to get him out. And I was a little anxious too because I thought I was having twins, but I didn't. So, all right, and you need to know your options as far as birth. Like free birth, we talked about earlier. You can also home birth with a midwife. You could home birth with a doctor. You could go to a birth center with a midwife. You can have a doctor at a birth center. You don't have to go to the hospital necessarily. And also, if you do go to the hospital, you can still have a midwife at the hospital. Or you can go to the hospital and have a doctor assist you with your birth. All of those are options. You don't have to be obligated to do one or the other. All right, and you can also have a midwife on call or consult with a midwife or consult with a doctor if they're willing to do that. All right. Now, I don't want to end with the scripture. Revelations chapter 12. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered to devour her child as soon as it were born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with the rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Not right now, yes. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, and the old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. Yes. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Now, I'm not going to go into interpretation of that scripture. I will leave that to your own private time, prayer, your own discernment. But that's an important scripture, I believe, for the mission that we have. And the mission I believe we all should have in preserving black lives, preserving black babies, and the lives of our black mothers and our generations and our nation to come. All right, and that's it. Please share this video. It's very informational, very important for us to reach our community and reach moms who may be ignorant or may be fearful and uninformed, so that they have this information and they have these resources and know that there is an organization that is advocating for them and has a solution that will provide a real answer.